Hello everybody and welcome back to another report card video. It's Legion and today we are going to be talking about the CIS Core Troopers. Not a lot of options once again for our Galactic um, Republic or our CIS troops, but still a lot to talk about. Once again, feel free to pause these next two slides to see how I go about grading these units and what those grades mean. So starting off with the B1s at 38 points, I give them a B+. Unironically, I believe that B1s are to be my favorite unit in the game. I love these guys, I love the concept, everything like that. But let's kind of go over what they've got on their card. They've got AI attack, meaning that if they do not have an order and they are eligible to make an attack, they must do so first. And then they have coordinate droid troopers, so any friendly droid trooper in range 1, they can bounce their order to is probably the best way to say that. We'll point this out, there are 6 models in this unit, which is the first one that's like this, and pretty much the only one, I think, that is like this in the game of Star Wars Legion right now. But they are 1 health and 1 courage. They do not surge either way. They throw white at range 3 and in melee. Okay, so let's go over these guys, because I think there's a lot to talk about. Um, I would love to put them higher, but let's talk about their pros. So they are cheap. Okay, easily the best part about B1s. They're super cheap. There's a reason they suck at kind of everything. They're just cheap core unit. 38 points is kind of a joke in terms of getting, 3 cores filled out for your limited list building, but at the most part, I would say the standard CIS build is, okay, I'm going to start with 6 B1s, everything else. But nonetheless, they've got so many bodies once you start taking them up to, 6 or 5 activations of B1s. The extra 2 dudes in each squad plus upgrades and guns and things like that is going to make it so hard to plink these guys fully off the board. They have the droid keyword as well, meaning they do not suffer from suppression until it comes to panicking. They also have great order control due to the fact that you can do a B1 chain and bounce orders to every B1 and usually one more unit at the end of that chain, meaning that CIS is sometimes exempt from having to worry about what they are going to pull from the bag. These are definitely some pros of playing this faction, and it all starts with these guys right here. Let's talk about some cons though. The first thing, they die, miss, repeat. Die, miss, repeat. And I say that jokingly because at times you're going to roll some dice. You're going to roll 6 white dice. You're going to get 2 crits in there. But for the most part, I would actually say they're not new player friendly. And I've seen this a lot with newer players in our community. They'll pick up B1s. They'll say these guys are terrible. They just fly off the board. And it's because I think they do take a lot of learning in terms of understanding how to avoid AI attack, how to use the droid B1 chain, how to avoid getting them killed for free. But for the most part, for a cheap activation, these guys are great. They're great objective getters, and they allow for so much stuff in the faction. The biggest thing for me that they do is they're so cheap that CIS is one of the best factions to, alright, I'm going to make 6 B1s, and then I want to play Dooku. Cool, you've got tons of points to work with. What else do you want? And some other factions, you're like, okay, I want to run 6 Rebel Troopers and Luke. Cool. What else do you want? Oh, never mind, we're out of points, right? So the CIS faction has a lot of flexibility in that aspect, that you can have multiple key pieces because these guys are so cheap. And that's easily one of my favorite things. Also, just having more bodies means more dice is going to be required to kill these guys. And if you're down to 1 B1 left in a squad, they're one of the best units in the game to just go get an objective, whatever it is. 1 B1 is worth a full squad when it comes to counting intercept, key positions, anything like that. A lot of times you just need the unit leader left, and these guys are a menace when it comes to that. So I think they're great for objectives as well. But we'll talk more about them at the end. Let's kind of look at their heavies, though. So the E5 C, 16 points, just adds 3 black dice. Nothing wrong with adding 3 more dice at range 3 to your already pretty menacing dice pool. For the E5S, this is my favorite heavy in the droids. Adding critical 1 and a range 4 sniper is pretty cool. It does make these guys a little more pricey in terms of your opponent kind of justifying actually spending time to plink off a full squad, because they're killing around 56 points at that point, I believe. But adding critical 1, making those search tokens matter a little bit more, and just having some range 4 plink damage, I think is awesome on one of the cheapest units in the game. The E6 60R B1 Trooper is also pretty good, with a lot of armor and stuff going around, and it also being at range 4. Impact 2 is great. The fact it's exhaustible though kind of sucks, but for the most part, if there's a core unit in the game that can justify maybe not taking an aim and shooting, you don't usually feel that bad with B1s. So just general RPG, nothing special. The Radiation Cannon Trooper, I don't really know how to feel about this because I think it's one of the few things in Star Wars Legion that I've never actually seen on the table, but it's not exactly rocket science looking at it either. A range 2 gun on one of the most fragile units in the game just doesn't really entice me all that much, but I do like the idea of having some poison. It's just that's very situational. There's a lot of vehicles. You could also just be playing another droid player or whatever the situation is that poison is literally not even going to come into effect. So cool. It's going to be good when it happens, but how often is it going to happen is my question. So I know some people have asked kind of me to rank some of these weapons. So I say personally, I would do the E5S first, and then the E5C next, and then the RPG, and then the Radiation Cannon Trooper. I think the E5S is great. The biggest leap is you got to go buy the little boxes of 4 droids, the specialist boxes, or the heavy weapons upgrades. You got to get a bunch of them. But the E5C is a great starter, and it's just going to give you some more dice to chunk at your opponent for pretty cheap. Looking at their other upgrades, they have the cheapest personnel slot in the game with 4 for an extra B1. I think this is actually a great upgrade. Making your squads with a heavy and an extra B1 an 8-man unit is no joke, and that goes offensively and defensively. You're never going to be surprised to see these B1s miss, even with all these upgrades, but it's going to be a welcome sight when you accidentally roll 6 crits. And it's just fun playing these guys because you only expect the worst for the most part, so when the best comes, it's a pretty awesome feeling. You're expecting your white dice to blank out, but in reality you block 2 out of 4, and you're like, oh, this is great. And then you just shoot, no aim at your opponent, and you're like, it's just, 7 white dice, 1 red, probably a couple hits, and then you get like 6 crits, and you're like, oh, B1s are awesome. And that's usually my experience. It's just sometimes it's a slot machine in terms of what you get. But the AUM series battle droid as well, using coordinate, allowing you to do that B1 order chain at range 2 instead of range 1. This is fine. I think for 8 points, it's just not really justified. I think it's not that difficult to keep your B1s at range 1, but if you did have a purpose for your list to kind of hang one back, this is the upgrade for you. Security droid for 6 points. You lose AI attack till the end of the activation. Like I said, I think at all costs, if you're playing B1s, you are looking to not be in the situation in the first place. And if you are, this upgrade isn't really going to get you out of that situation a lot of times. Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I'm not saying it's not worth it for 2 more points than the regular guy. It's just very situational, and I feel like you could just go with the generic dude, which is weird because most of our other upgrades we've talked about, I'm like, yeah, don't go for the generic one, go for the specialist. And in this case, I would say the other way around. So definitely put the B1 battle droid first. Probably the AUM second. I think that actually has a decent amount of utility. And then I put the security droid last in terms of viability. Next up, we have the B2 Super Battle Droids coming in at 45 points. I gave them a C, and I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, but they're actually pretty good, yada, yada, yada. I'm looking at these units in terms of in their faction, and I think the B1s are just a much superior option in terms of general list building. But I do think we can talk about what these guys are really good at right now. So they also have AI attack, and they have armor 1. They are coming in at 45 points. 2 courage, 2 health. They do not surge either way. It's a black and a white at range 2. There is only 3 models in this unit and a black melee attack. So, first off, they have great range 2 options. They have armor 1, and with the heavy cover rules, that's going to be really good. It's going to feel like they have triple cover a lot of times. Okay. The best pro about these guys right now is the current meta of, well, not meta, but the current state of the game in terms of everything have cover and a lot of things having armor. These guys have some really good options against that. My only problem is, number 1, they eat up order control. Okay, to me that's the best thing about CIS is you're not digging in the bag looking for things. And number 2, AI is more frequent. Now there's some ways to do that, and there's some builds that make the B2 battle droids, in my opinion, higher than a C. And so I want to make that very clear. I think there's definitely a build, just like how we talked about the Rebel Troopers, that there is a very strong build that makes these guys good. But overall, I think this unit is not just anywhere near what the B1s provide for this faction. I do not want to be digging in my bag looking for a core or my force user or boss, whoever's in my list, because I have these guys. And for the most part, things like that courage too, doesn't really help you unless your commander's dead. So I don't know. I just don't really see these guys, and unfortunately, I will also state this as one of the cons. Black Suns exist, and you could put them in this list, and I would argue that they're better for a very similar price. So I just don't know why anyone that's looking for this kind of stuff maybe doesn't just go to them. And I do understand for the one loadout that we're going to talk about for the B2s. So let's look at those upgrades and kind of put them together. So you've got the B2 ACM Trooper, just 3 extra red dice at range 2. Then you got the B2 HA Trooper, 2 red and a white. These are both the heavy weapons upgrades. It has Blast, Cycle, and Impact 2. And you also have the B2 Super Battle Droid. This is not a heavy weapons upgrade. This is a personal upgrade, but it is B2 specific, so I put it on this slide as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about that. Those upgrades. Extra droid, absolutely. I think it's pretty good, but I do think that there is a much superior upgrade that is going to make these B2s viable in terms of that more competitive variant of the B2 troopers. The ACM trooper's fine. 3 extra red dice is cool. I just don't really know if you wouldn't spend some more and get the HA Trooper, because to me this is a really good upgrade. The B2 HA Trooper, Impact 2, Blast, and the fact it has Cycle, bringing it back after you don't use it, awesome. So to me, the B2 HA Trooper is really good. I would recommend if you are going to play some B2s, you strap this bad boy on and you try it out, especially since the range 3 shot 2, it's not going to come into play too much, but the range 2 is devastating when you don't have cover. The ACM Trooper's not bad, but I would definitely put it behind this. The extra battle droid is still really good, but we're going to talk about something that I think kind of takes its place as making the B2s a hyper competitive unit in some instances. Okay, so you can put all these droids on the B1s or the B2s. You can do the medical droid, get treat 1, capacity 2, healing off the, organic units in the CIS if you're brave enough to do such a thing. And then we have the true healer in the droid faction, which is the PK series worker droid, which has repair 1, capacity 2 for any non-organic units, so droids, vehicles, all that good stuff. Now, here's the T-Series. Range 1 to 3, he's got a red dice, he loses AI attack, you get reliable 1, he's the leader, all that good stuff. Okay. Viper Recon Droid, range 2, 2 white dice, observe 2, and yeah, 14, 12, 18, and 6 on the points. All of these are good. I have not seen a ton of the Viper Recon Droid. The fact that the observe is an action kind of makes it, I'm not going to say obsolete, but not as enticing to put on any of my units. But for 6 points, it's not bad either. I can't really be upset about that. But for the most part, I think that the Recon Droid struggles because of the action it takes for Observe 2. Might as well take an aim and get the same thing, unless you just have a B1 unit that's looking to support something like Bosk, then it makes sense. So I'd kind of put that one towards the end. PK and Medical Droid, they do what healers do, and I think they're both appropriately priced, so I put them in the middle. T-Series Tactical Droid, I really don't think you would ever want to put this on a B1 squad. That's kind of useless in my opinion. Now on the B2 squad, that's what we're going to talk about. You put this on the B2 squad, it gives them, or they lose AI attack, which is easily the worst part about the B2s, is because you can't always get them all the orders they need. So you lose AI attack, great. Give them reliable 1, gives them a surge token, absolutely fantastic, because they don't have any and they need it badly. Another good thing about this is the range 3 red dice. It can be added in with the B2 HA Trooper to get you a 3 red, 1 white shot with Blast, Impact 2, and all that good stuff. Or better yet, you get into range 2 and have a decimating shot. So that is the cost, but the total cost of those together with the HA Trooper, the T-Series in a B2 squad, you're looking at like a 5-man squad, and like I said, the price is very similar to a Black Sun squad that can get all the way up to 6 units. I don't know. They're too close, and I think the Black Sun's a better variant, and so I feel like the B2s are lacking a little bit in terms of update maybe, but I know some people have found some success with them, which is great because I love them. I think they're one of the coolest models in the game. They're so awesome. So if you guys want to play B1s, I am not dissing on them in any way, shape, or form. Or not B1s, B2s. So let's look at the summary. Okay. Unfortunately, few options, but as we've seen AMGTs, it looks like we're getting a Geonosian Battle Force, so I think that'll be really good to add some more variety. Couldn't tell you if those are core units. I doubt it, and I would allegedly think that you have to play them in a Battle Force, but I don't know. Cool thing about this faction is the Horde Core faction. So, to me at the very least, B1s fit that role. B2s, not so much, but, you know, having 5 B1s and 1 B2, you're still going to have a pretty good horde faction. Okay, so you need to also think like that too. Like, yes, you have more bodies than your opponent, but they're also way easier to kill. B1s allow for multiple key pieces. This is my favorite thing about them. You can give them heavies, you can give them extra troopers, whatever you want to do, and you'll still have enough points to do Maul and the tank. Maul and a snail droid. Cad Bane and Bosk. 3 Staps and Bosk. Whatever the combo is, whatever you want to play that is allowed in the CIS. I think if you want to go buy all the heroes and everything like that, this is the easiest faction to trial those units without really feeling confused about what you should be putting together. You can just say, okay, 6 B1s, cool, now build whatever you want. And I think that's the fun part of the CIS faction, is it's just such a bread and butter thing for them. That honestly makes it want to be my favorite faction at times. B2s are somewhat anti-meta right now, so once again, I know I gave them a lower grade, but I think that T-Series plus Hot Trooper could arguably bring them up to like a B+. I would not be against saying something like that, so take the B2 grade with a grain of salt, but overall I do think that they are a somewhat lackluster unit behind the B1s, but with heavy cover, dark troopers, maybe we see some ISP action from Cody, things like that. B2s are really good just for getting units out in the open and for taking armor out of the game quickly and effectively. So, very cool. I'm glad to see the B1s have some love and attention on the competitive scene. Upgrades are cheap as well. All the things we talked about for the most part, relatively cheap upgrades to staple onto either of these 2 units and add on to all the other stuff you brought. You brought a tank. It's really enticing to bring the repair droid because you can repair the tank, or you can repair the B1 squad, or the B2 squad, or the T-Series, whatever it is. And so I think that's really exciting for CIS players to usually have the points to actually bring a majority of these upgrades without having to scramble for more points or anything like that. The best part, in my opinion, about CIS, or not the best part, but one of the great things about it is the order control. When you actually put these droids on the table and you start to see what I'm talking about in terms of the B1 chain, you're going to be like, wow, I've only got 2 tokens in my bag. They're both commanders. I know what I'm getting. And that's one of the best parts about this, is you can decide what goes when, especially once you start throwing in things like direct, order control in particular from cards, improvised orders. It's hard to go wrong with just having a bunch of orders on the board. So that's good. AI is a big thing. When those orders go to crap and something happens and you lose a B1 squad in the middle of the board and your chain's broken, it can suck. It is a definite double-sided sword. It's really good when it works, but if you lose something, you can definitely lose that order control quickly, and all your B1s may be shooting with no aims and doing very little and losing a lot of value. But for the most part, in my experience, I think if you learn to play with the B1s and learn to play them cautiously, it's actually going to be really hard for your opponent to break up your B1 chains, especially if you position them right. So it takes time, it takes patience. I think that these core units absolutely require you some love and effort before you start to understand how good they are, because it's not all that enticing when you start off with B1s and you're like, wow, I rolled 1 hit, and then you play against your clone trooper friend, he's like, all right, I'm going to fire support this, here's 25 dice at you, and your B1 squad's gone, right? But I love B1s, super fun, I think for both opponents too, for the most part, or both opponent and players, so hope you guys check these out. I'm going to link my good friend, Average Jerry's Game Workshop. He's going to have some YouTube videos coming up. I'm in a couple of them as well, and he's got some great battle reports for you guys. Hopefully we'll be doing a collaboration soon, talking about some different things in terms of analyzing a battle report or diving deeper, or maybe even just talking about the game state in general. If you guys have anything you would like me to talk about that is not a report card video, I would love to throw in another video for missing last week. I believe right now my game plan is to do a tips and tricks guide or a State of Legion video, but you guys let me know what you would love to see and talk about. I would even love to talk to you guys about your lists, and you guys could send me some lists. Whatever you guys want to do, leave some comments down below. Give me some of your ideas, because I have plenty, but I want to hear what you guys are interested in. But anyways, thanks for watching. We'll be back with another video, and hope you guys have a good one.